This is things I wish I could say in Sunday school. I want to share some thoughts and ideas that are different than what we usually hear. My goal is to be really honest rather than inherently faith-promoting. I hope these ideas may spark some interesting discussions with your friends, families, or classes. Please enjoy. This is the lesson for November 25th through December 1st, Ether chapters 12 through 15. Today's topics are faith and trials, weakness and strength, and hope. This lesson covers the end of the Jaredites, but the most interesting ideas are in chapter 12, which is Moroni editorializing. I'll start with Ether 12:6. This was a scripture mastery verse when I went through seminary, and it is a doctrinal mastery verse in the current program. And now I, Moroni, would speak somewhat concerning these things. I would show unto the world that faith is things which are hoped for and not seen. Wherefore dispute not because ye see not, for ye receive no witness until after the trial of your faith. This verse gives the standard faith is hoped for but not seen that we get in other famous verses on faith, like in Alma 32:21 and Hebrews 11:1. But this verse goes on to say that you receive no witness until after the trial of your faith. There are numerous issues with this idea. It's a broad blanket statement with essentially no explanation. So let's think this through. Premise number 1. Let's say you don't have faith in God because you see no compelling reason to believe in God. Then according to this verse, you'll never experience anything that could lean you toward faith in God because you will receive no witness until after the trial of your faith. I don't think that's right. People experience all kinds of things. Why would anyone ever begin to believe that there was no witness, no reason to believe? Outsiders will blame the individual for their lack of faith, because if only they had tried to have faith, then they'd get a witness. Now, premise number 2. Let's say you are trying to have faith, but don't feel like you're getting a witness. Your faith isn't producing the results you were hoping for. You have no control over this. Yet again, outsiders will blame you. Either you didn't have enough faith to get a witness, or you didn't wait long enough, or you failed whatever trial of your faith. Whatever reason, the blame will be placed on you for God not showing up for you. The trial part of this is also problematic. It makes it so one's faith being tried is something to hope for or seek after. We will want our faith tested so it can grow, creating this feedback loop. It also sets up the idea that our faith is under attack, and that's good, because then it gets stronger. So the faithful are all in a foxhole together, getting their faith attacked, and it creates a lot of us versus them, or us versus the world kind of thinking. Ultimately, I feel like one point of this verse was to get people to try to have faith or greater faith, that God will reward you with undeniable special evidence if only you stick with your faith. I just don't think we can control God like that. This verse also gives fodder for people to judge others with different looking faith. I believe faith is complex, and everyone is going to grow and evolve in their own individual way. I'm moving on to Ether 12:27 now. And again, this is a scripture/doctrinal mastery verse. I'm going to read it. And if men come unto me, I will show unto them their weakness. I give unto men weakness that they may be humble, and my grace is sufficient for all men that humble themselves before me. For if they humble themselves before me and have faith in me, then will I make weak things become strong unto them. People talk about this verse all the time, trying to strengthen their weaknesses. I feel like a lot of people take it too far. The idea of weakness and strength is rooted in the notion that there are ideal characteristics that we are all striving for. I think that's false. The variety among people is one of the most beautiful things in the world. There is no singular ideal. American society tends to view introversion as a weakness, being extroverted as a strength. While it's true that our society has trended to reward extroversion over introversion in terms of power, position, money, etc., it is in no way more godly than being introverted. That's just an easy example, but almost anything can be considered a strength or a weakness given the right context. Being able to really focus is usually considered a strength, but sometimes you can miss important things because you're too focused. A broader perspective would have served better. We all have parts of ourselves we sometimes wish were different. The positive aspect of this is we can identify ways we want to grow. The negative aspect is that we can get down on ourselves and view it as flaws. I just want to challenge the idea of weakness. Think about what you usually consider your weakness. Is there another way to think about it where it's not a weakness? The other part of this verse is humility. Humility is usually considered the opposite of pride, and that's a fine way to think about it. But I also see humility as having correct perspective, seeing the world and others and ourselves clearly. If we view everything correctly, there is no pride. We don't lift ourselves up above others. We see the divine in everyone. So weakness doesn't beget humility. If we see with the right perspective, we are humble. And our characteristics aren't really weaknesses. I'm going to reread the verse now. And if men come unto me, I will show unto them their weakness. I give unto men weakness that they may be humble, and my grace is sufficient for all men that humble themselves before me. For if they humble themselves before me and have faith in me, then will I make weak things become strong unto them. The usual reading is that if we take our weaknesses to God, God will change our weaknesses to strengths. But another way to read it is if we are able to view things as God does, humility, then we can recognize that our perceived weaknesses are not really flaws, just another variety in people. The last topic today is hope. There's a lot about hope in this chapter. I felt like the last episode of this podcast I did was pretty bleak. Sometimes that's where the material leads me. This material is much more hopeful. I'm going to read Ether chapter 12, verse 33. And again, I remember that thou hast said that thou hast loved the world, even to the laying down of thy life for the world, that thou mightest take it again to prepare a place for the children of men. Reading this verse this week gave me some perspective. If Christ can love the world and humanity with all of its flaws and problems, then that's what I want to strive to do too. It's not easy, but it's something to keep in mind and remind myself of when I feel depressed about the state of the world. Those sad feelings are fine. There are lots of legitimate reasons that I feel that way sometimes. And I can also hope to love the world and humanity better, like Christ does. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Please share with family and friends. Until next time.